Hi everyone, welcome back for one of our weekly live. I'm Julia DeMauro, the host of the IBD Hub podcast. And today we're going to talk about how to sell new developments in a new digital era. I have two guests with me. I have Jordan March and Katie Thurber from the team Mac Peak of SERHANT, and they will be joining us very soon. I just would like to remind you that we are live every week on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, like today. And every week we are welcoming a specialist from the architecture and real estate field. And today there will be an announcement at the end of this episode. So stay until the end to get to know the news. And you can always find us on the ibdhub.com to find out more about our services. So I would like to introduce to you to Jordan March and Katie Thurber. Hi, guys.
Good morning.
Hi, Julia.
Good morning.
New Year.
You are tuning in from New York. It's 10:30 a.m. there.
Coming to you live.
Yeah, that's great. So tell us a little bit more about your team and what you have been up to this few months with Corona as well, because I think your job has changed considerably as well.
Yeah, it's been an exciting new start to the new year. I think while we went through 2020 has been a year of a lot of turns and unexpected events. I still feel like a lot of optimism going into the new year and everyone wanting to sort of shake off and forget what happened and sort of move into a new place. And for us, it's been very much that, and we just started with SERHANT over the last few months, and their team has been absolutely incredible in getting transitioned really into the new year as well. They've been a big catalyst for just this new energy that we're experiencing and having some really awesome conversations.
So SERHANT is, I guess, a little bit of a startup for now, right? If I understand correctly. So how do you promote properties with a lean budget, let's say?
So I'm going to take that question. I would say that we're the masters of working with limited budgets. Especially right now in the new development space, we're seeing a lot of developers switch teams and marketing strategies after spending a huge amount of their capital already after being on the market for a year or two. Thankfully, the digital era has made it quite a bit easier to do brand collaborations and reach a whole new target demographic without investing a ton of money. For us, we've been really successful in doing partnerships with small businesses and then micro influencers within our community. So we've had a lot of success specifically with Instagram, where we'll have people come and tour property and take photos of themselves in the space. We'll give them a property tour and then they're doing basically free promotion for us. And in turn, that's a way for us to have some free marketing collateral as well, because we can repost it on our social media. And then also, events like this, podcasts, anything where you're doing live broadcasts where people can engage in the space has been tremendous for us for marketing.
Yeah, I can imagine. And so that keeps the budget on the low end, let's say, right?
Yeah, and even like a few dollar investments to promote a post, whether that be on Facebook, depending on your demographic, Instagram, that can really go a long way.
Yeah, the reason why I'm happy to have you here is also to inspire also the architecture field to also step up and participate to these new types of marketing. Because I don't know if you know our field a little bit, but we're kind of old fashioned and we let you guys take over for the marketing of the buildings in order to sell it. When actually, I would love to have more architects and engineers involved in this challenge as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, for us, this is also an opportunity to discuss that. So
I think there's,
what would be
yeah.
yeah, sorry, go on.
No, I think there's a tremendous opportunity there. And that's something that I've found really challenging being on the sales
Yeah,
side, is that the architects and design teams design everything without bringing in the real estate people that are on the ground. So you can be
yeah,
a lot more efficient if you're starting those conversations prior, before anything's actually built. I think it
yeah.
benefits both parties. So I'd love to see more of that happening in the future.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that architects should have more of a business sense while they're designing as well, so that for you guys, it's less work afterwards to put together a story. If the story was put together beforehand, it would be easier in a way to market it and to sell it faster as well. But what are the new challenges for you for this moment of COVID era? I guess it's not that easy to convince people to invest in this time. Um, but I would really like to have your point of view on that.
Sure. I think the biggest thing that we've experienced was actually, really just the amount of interaction face to face that we could have. We found that we've had to shift very quickly with, moving away from traditional marketing where, someone could say, hey, with this billboard, you'll come across 100, sort of unique visitors or unique people seeing it. With this certain traditional media, even if it's say a mailer, we have people who are even in their house in New York, right? So
Yeah,
we're finding that there's been a big shift from traditional where I think the expenditures are typically really high because of the engagement has now been changed where no one's outside. And we've had people say, they've foregone or delayed a lot of their digital initiatives and have been met, sort of abruptly with having to change and pivot to make sure that they're still attracting the same audience. So I think just that medium as a whole has shifted a lot from traditional to more of a digital landscape. And the big challenge has been, many have not been adept at what tools there are and resources they can use to make sure that they're still engaging and increasing that audience that they would want to target.
yeah. And has the type of clients changed? Do you get more international clients now that, the situation makes it more accessible for everyone to go on social media and have a conversation with you?
Absolutely. I found that, a big part of just New York was global markets connecting, with brands and websites out here, already. But then you can see through looking at different analytics to be able to see where are people actually engaging with certain products. So for instance, we had with one of our last projects, a lot from Asian markets come in and really the project resonated with them through the design, through the architecture and really where that was positioned in the market and even with location and how that helped us, get in front of an audience that was really sort of unexpected as far as, our initial target client. So yeah, absolutely.
Has that changed a little bit, the way that you sell as well to have more international audience? Sorry, I'm asking because I'm curious to know if there is, I'm interested in cultures and different backgrounds. Is there a different way to sell for you if it's a different nationality?
Yes. The answer is yes. I mean, you have to know your demographic and who you're selling to. My narrative would be completely different if I'm speaking to a parent as opposed to, let's say, a college student that's looking at a property. they're going to have totally different concerns and needs and requirements. I would say specifically with this last project that Jordan's referencing, where we did have a really large Asian demographic coming, feng shui and numbers were particularly important. So that is interesting because like having beamed ceilings isn't necessarily feng shui, and the number 6 is huge. Like in purchase prices also, like with offers, and just really interesting how we marketed specifically to that demographic.
Yeah, perfect. It is interesting to me, to know this.
Yeah.
Also, I wanted to ask you, how has the use of social media and digital marketing changed in the past year, and what the new trends that we can expect? Because that's also a very big topic right now.
We've seen, I think, the emergence of like some apps really take over. I think TikTok, obviously, we're seeing being an integral part of marketing mixes now for different corporations. Clubhouse in the last couple of months. So we're seeing, I think, a lot of newer forms and platforms for us to really sort of like now create new compelling viral content for. Additionally, just getting more, I'm seeing a lot more video and a lot more, Zooms, of course, being exposed as far as a way to now still have reach and touch points with our target markets. We're finding that people are really seeing it not just a novelty, but more of a necessity in their marketing mix. And how do we now really leverage these tools in a very consistent basis? And I think that's the biggest key, is that from before it was, hey, let me just do a post and I'll probably see you on Wednesday or Thursday in person, where it's, now I actually have to create content that is essentially going to be our new communication channel, right? And our voice with our brand on how we connect with a certain audience and how consistent we do that.
Yeah, I was wondering if because people cannot like move around, or like maybe you guys used to do like events where people came to see the goods, and now it's not possible anymore to do that. So have you ever like sold a development through Zoom call, or like through just showing it around with a video?
I got a lead yesterday on my Instagram. Someone said, that's a hot listing, send it to me right now. And it's somebody I haven't heard from in like over a year. So I think it's always our jobs to make sure that, like, how do we create shareable content? I think that's the other thing as well. And content that people also want to spread the word with, because product that's that I feel will really compete well in the market is stuff that you'll automatically tell your friends about, and I don't have to compel you to do so. But I think developments now through these partnerships, through creating content with really helping our neighborhood survive, right? Are there restaurants? Are there fitness centers? Are there schools? Are there, even restaurants that are holding on that could use an additional voice through the development, through the property, to create a voice to now reach out to the community, Maybe we're not hosting a big dinner, but we may, do takeout for, 20 or 30 people on a given night, right, in the community. I think there are still very creative ways to make sure that we're using partnerships like Katie was saying, and in order to build more of a grassroots voice that actually you really own that, in the long run.
I heard something that you said, that you had that client for over a year, and he kind of appeared out of nowhere. How important is it for you guys to do follow-ups? Because I'm guessing, like, it takes some time for a lead to actually buy, right? It's not like a small investment. So could you explain to especially to the architects who struggle sometimes to convince clients to, invest in a project, how important the follow-up part is?
Follow-up is, I think, the first and foremost important part of business, especially when you're in the business of building relationships, which is what we do as architects, as designers. We live off of referrals and continuing business once we start engaging with someone. So, our entire team have clients that we've been working with for years and years, some even a decade, and they continue to refer them to friends. But you need to be touching on several points. Like being consistent with your social media, I think is very important. You always want to be having something in your stories, providing some kind of insight into what your day looks like and what you're working on to keep people excited. And then also just shooting people messages, like a quick note. I think now more so than ever, because we are very isolated, in and out of lockdowns, and our dynamic has shifted. As humans, we're very communal people, and now we're kind of in this isolation stage. So someone's going to be really excited to hear from you, whether it's a phone call or just like a quick note. And it doesn't have to be about business. I think just checking in goes a long way. Yeah,
it's really I think it's a twofold process, right? So like, Katie's saying like, we definitely have to be DMing and doing direct messages. That for me is like on top of texting. I have like people who I text and with my phone number, and then there's people who I may DM and send a story to. And then I think with the follow-up, it's also, we're always seeing follow-ups as being very tedious and not a path of building relationships. Mm-hmm. So I'm not always saying I have to close the deal after this next call. I got to do follow-ups. I got to do follow-ups. I hate doing them. I've connected with someone. There's a point of discovery, and then there's actually a point of where there's acquisition, right? When they actually close the sale, and looking at those amount of touch points is a process as well, that you're all building the relationship with the prospect or the person, right? Yeah. I think with developments, robust emailing lists, so that when they're doing some of these events, they can announce them. They can also archive them and re-preview them to everyone else while they start to build any anticipation for other events. So it's doing the one-offs and the targeted and really building the connection, and then still having like a mailing list or newsletter that someone can really expect to hear, because with this development, you're essentially building a small community within your community, right? Your building may have 300 or 500 units, or however it is, or even if it's very boutique. Is there a culture, so on, that you want to convey to the prospect as well?
Yeah, I love that, because a lot of clients that I have, they give up, or they feel the frustration of being kind of dismissed by a potential client and so on. But the important thing is to persist no matter what. So if they don't answer an email, then maybe make a newsletter like you said, or at least convey the values of your company as much as possible and keep them updated. So I love that. Guys, I'm going to go to the next question. But before that, I would love to have some questions from you. So if you would like to comment, we'll pick some questions at the end. So yeah, my next question is, how do you think developers could improve their client outreach in the digital landscape? Because in Europe, unfortunately, we're quite behind with this digital marketing hype, and we focus a lot on events. The MIPIM, I don't know if you guys know it, it's a real estate event where most of the deals are made. But now with Corona, of course, we can't meet new people or access these networking events. So I'm really curious to know what would be the advice.
So there's a lot of ways that you can continue to improve your client outreach, right? And staying engaged within your community. I think being consistent, like we just touched on with emailing, social media efforts, and just staying top of mind, but also offering value. If there's something happening in the community, or providing, let's say we partnered with a company here called Mindful Meditation. And we were hosting meditations, which was very impactful and appreciated, and not only supported a local business, but you're providing peace of mind to your community and client base. And that can go in a lot of different avenues, right? Like giving tips on how to have a greener home, or what kind of plants you can put around in your space to have cleaner oxygen. That goes in a lot of different ways. I think providing value to your clients is first and foremost, and they're going to be continuing to read your emails and stay engaged with you.
Yeah, because many people would say like, oh, is the investment worth it? From a close-minded perspective, that would be the answer that you would get. but how? Yeah, do you so you think it's a good investment to give some value to the client so they have an experience rather than just buy an apartment?
Absolutely.
Experiences over things. I think most people have that mentality. Obviously, you're selling a lifestyle too. You're not just selling a slice of real estate. You're selling the community. You're selling, the finishes, and you're selling the experience.
Exactly. Yeah, I completely agree. And that is worth for any field. Unfortunately, we do well. So certain fields don't know that investing in value actually brings back a lot of clients and a lot of reach as well. So
I think often an unheard narrative, right? Where there's like a deeper look when we're dealing with any, say, architects or developers, where they may be able to convey that story to me, over an hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours when I'm touring a property, when I have a deeper look and where I'm speaking with the sponsor, developer, architect themselves. Whereas a lot of times when you're relying on a broker or, a small 5 to 10 minute showing, they haven't really built that rapport with your certain product. So I think that it's important to now, how do I explain the narrative? If there's a certain, sort of thing that I want you to feel, or there's certain materials that I'm using that are tastefully done, or there's certain craftsmanship that I really want to accentuate, right? How do we make sure that we're building that story and so on before someone may visit a property? So they're aware, they're even asking for things. Show me the playroom or show me that amenity, because that's what really got me excited and compelled to come.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have a question off script for you. Do you think that integrating you guys from I don't want to say the design phase straight away, but like throughout the process of building the developments could be beneficial for the whole team in order to take advantage of what is required from the market, put it in place to design it, and then sell it in the correct way?
Yes, I think that is the future. I think teamwork, especially because right now it's so separated. Everyone's kind of in these different buckets and no one's communicating. So for us as a sales and marketing team, coming in at the very end of the project without being part of that narrative, getting excited, understanding why the architects and the designers are choosing to do these specific finishes that might be paying homage to the history, being able to hear it from them. And then also we're the ones on the ground and seeing all of the different product that's out there, seeing what home buyers and renters want to have in their next properties or commercial spaces. So I think it's integral to be integrating, us on the sales side, because we're client facing and dealing with so many more people and seeing what's selling. Also, a lot of these projects, especially New York City, we're seeing a huge amount of condo inventory that's stagnating on the market, where I think some of that could have been avoided if we were dealing directly with, that have that experience.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, it's really amazing to me that, well, the architects, they usually design based on assumptions that they make, but it's not necessarily what the user or the client wants, right? So for me, it would be interesting to see how things will change in the future. If we get you integrated sooner, probably things will sell easily and without having to patch things up when we come to the sale. So
design and functionality, I find that's something that doesn't always correlate in our world. And it's like, oh, this is really pretty, but this makes no sense. I have to get soaking wet to turn on my shower. Or like, why did they design the kitchen this way? It's pretty to look at, but is it going to work for me day to day?
Yeah. And I have another question. So travel and business have already been altered dramatically. How do you see the global real estate market shifting, and what can we expect from international collaboration? Oh, is it Jordan that is going to
I think, look, I think the longer the wait is, there's always going to be a demand for, New York. With global markets shifting, we've seen areas that have been warm all year round. We're seeing areas that have had like a lot less, sort of guidelines and sort of stringent restrictions on travel be an area where people will go. New York has been very much where people have migrated either right outside of it to the Hamptons, to Florida, for example, but not limited to that. I think we're seeing a shift in some of those things. I think we're also seeing shifts. We're just having a vacation home or having a second home in a more warmer climate or beach climate. So that's where I've seen some of the market shift, where it would just be directly metropolitan. For the foreign dollar, people are really looking at other states and other markets in the U.S. at least, and seeing where they can find sound investments. And with the intellectual collaborations, I expect after hopeful with the vaccine coming and so on, that a lot of these restrictions will be lifted, and we'll go into really the second, the third, and fourth quarter of 2021 will be very I think telling into 2022. I think for the moment it may continue being a bit quiet for the foreign investor unless they're obviously here. But then that's very that's a great opportunity, I think, for developers to get really innovative in how they reach the foreign buyer, because a lot of times when you're buying into new dev, you may not be able to close for another year to 2 years, even at times, right? In worst case scenarios, but still is a very common scenario, right? So I think they can get creative with concessions and close dates that would actually, be in line with when people can really get active and back in the city.
Yeah, and because of Corona, did you see a change in the requirements of the clients? Do they require more outdoor spaces or more sustainable buildings, and so on? I'm curious about that.
All the above. I think we're seeing just now luxury is taking a different form of just even air quality, right? Like we've never, it's something that I've thought about for years, but we've never as a community thought about it as being a very sort of necessary requirement when we're looking at our priorities when we're finding a home. So I think more than ever, you're seeing added amenities. We're seeing that we need home offices more than ever. Of course, outdoor spaces. In New York, the townhouses, like we're in one, has been now something that is very self-contained and something that people have a lot of different places in a house they can go, where if they're home, for more than 10 hours a day, that they don't feel like they're stuck to, one room or two rooms in a one bedroom or studio. Even in a lot of times when we're looking at bigger shares, something that may be under 1,200 square feet or so, which is a very common and generous space in New York at times, may be a lot more limited if you're, really having your kids in the entire day in the house. So I think we've seen this product type really resurge in a way that we haven't seen. And in certain markets, it's even tripled during the quarantine. Where in Brooklyn, we're having, literally almost 3 times the amount of townhouses that have been sold versus the year prior, pre-COVID. So there's just so many things where the product and demands change. And one is having something that may be very self-contained, having an outdoor space, having a private office, having, even a separate quarters where you can work on a separate house, separate part of the house versus your spouse. So we're seeing a lot of these changes, especially in the way that we're looking at layouts more than ever.
Yeah. And, I had Aaron Chen from ODA New York in September on the podcast. And we talked about New York in general. And we argued about an article that came up that was titled "New York is Dead," because people thought like that with COVID, people would not live in New York anymore and they would just go on the countryside instead of staying in the city, now that everybody can work from their computer. What do you think about this statement of New York is dead? Do you believe in it, or do you think that people will come back to the city?
New York is alive and kicking. It's definitely a little bit different right now. It's a lot quieter in the streets. But the beautiful thing about New York City is that it will always be rebirthing itself. This is Mecca for arts and culture and pretty much every type of community. So
Sure.
I'm excited to see what it comes back as in the next iteration. And specifically in the last, I would say, month, I'm even personally seeing clients that I helped move to the Hamptons or out of state, and they miss New York City.
Yeah,
I mean, how could you not? It's New York, but they're coming back.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see that. It hasn't even been a year, and people that really love living in New York and having those services are going to want to stay here.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I believe that too, but it was, such a huge article that I was wondering your opinion about it. We have one question, and then I don't know if after this question you would like to show us a little bit the venue that you have in store for us today. So
Yeah, we'd
the
love to show you the
question
house.
The question is from Antonio. He says, "Hi, Julia. I have a question. As far as the designing process is concerned, how relevant is it for you guys to collaborate with experts in the BIM and computational design field?" So architects and engineers, they use now a software where they can all together work and see the 3D of the development in the same time. And I think that what Antonio means is this something, because it reduces the risks when you build the building. So is it, I don't know if you know, but is it a requirement that is needed for the architects that you are collaborating with? Of course, if you don't know, it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely recommend. I would just say as a whole, even if we're not, say, familiar with all of the up-to-date standards in, like, again, computational design, I think it's very important to work with a broker when actually going through someone that's trusted and that has a reputation of selling a certain product that you want to get into the market for. I've noticed that a lot of new developments that have been struggling may really lack, I think, a deeper insight of having that client feedback that a lot of times just comes with the broker showing hundreds and hundreds of apartments. Whereas, so we may have an added perspective on how to really make sure that your layouts and your amenities and just pretty much your entire product is very compelling all around. So there may be a lot of different scenarios, but there are times where I see layouts made, and if we're able to get insights into pre-planning, we can jump in and say, hey, you know what? I think this may be some solid feedback based on what clients are expecting at any given time. Yeah, and to add up to it, Antonio, because I know Antonio very well, he's one of my coaches. For sure, if you collaborate with brokers who know what the client wants, you can add these parameters to your computational design and create much better designs that are required for the market. So, of course, I think the collaboration is definitely a plus from the design words. So I'm so excited to see this place. Do you want to tell us, do you want to make a little bit of an introduction for us?
Sure. So we're streaming right now from our brand new townhouse listing that we are getting ready to photograph today. We were in here staging last night until the wee hours. So we're excited to get the market. Free townhouse that's 15 feet wide and 5,100 square feet. So we've got 5 bedrooms, 6 baths, and 5 outdoor spaces on the Upper East Side. So I'm going to see if I can, oops, I'm sorry. Let me see if I can flip my camera. I don't know if I can, but I'm just going to walk you guys through some of these spaces here. So this is the master suite. I was lucky enough to be up here for the broadcast. Excuse some of my things. This is our dressing room. So what's nice about this house is that the master suite actually occupies the entire 3rd floor.
Wow. That's really beautiful.
I know. And it's zoned throughout the entire space with their own heating and lighting systems. So if you're not utilizing the entire house, you can have the heat off, let's say in the bottom 2 floors. Here's an additional bedroom. This is a blue room. We've got a mid-century modern vibe going in here.
That's really beautiful.
Bathroom. It's very well done. It developed
I think
it's got, we've even got some stairs up to the roof.
Yeah, Katie, we the internet connection is getting better. Yeah.
Is it bad?
No, I can hear you now, but yeah.
Okay. Well, I think I might be too far from the router.
Yeah, it can be. And in the meantime, I have Sean MacPick that is giving me some numbers for this apartment. I think he's from your team, of course.
Yes.
So asking price 9 million. Guys, if anyone is interested, you know how to contact Jordan Marsh and Katie Thurber.
We'll be live with the house next week, so everybody can see the full marketing.
Perfect. But it looks really, really nice. I'm gonna put. I see that Jordan has also a view on the living room. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, that looks great.
Okay, Julia, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much for yeah, it was a pleasure having you guys on. I will make just a short conclusion after this, but thank you so much for coming and also answering so many questions about digital marketing for new developments. I think that your team is super inspiring because really you do a great job having so much visibility online and even managing to sell penthouses online. So that's something that not many people can do. And I really hope that many people will contact you and ask you questions through LinkedIn or Instagram. Do you have some platforms or contact details that you want to tell us where people can?
Yeah, we'll put it right in the comments. But it is at McPeak Team on Instagram if you want to contact us through Instagram. Okay. Otherwise, you can find us individually, Jordan March, Katie Thurber on LinkedIn. Otherwise, it's your first name at SERHANT. So Jordan at SERHANT or Katie at SERHANT. And you can find us there.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Beautiful apartment. I hope that that it sells very soon. I have no doubts about it. So keep us posted on that as well.
Absolutely.
We will.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Up for now. Thank you, everyone.
So that's it for today with Katie and Jordan. And I have just one announcement to make for the guys that have been with us in the past lives. I have talked about making finally a digital business development course, especially for architects and engineers. It is now live and it will start on the 1st of February. And with this course, you'll be able to learn how to be visible on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and trigger opportunities and find clients online. And I think it's very useful now because of COVID. We cannot meet clients in an organic way. So if you are interested, you have 72 hours to DM me on LinkedIn and I will give you a discount of 10% on it. Otherwise, you can check out directly the course on the ibdhub.com and it will be on their online courses. So thank you guys so much for being here weekly. This episode will be put on the IBD Hub podcast as well next week, and you can listen to it through Apple Podcast, YouTube, and Spotify. So thank you so much again for being here, and see you guys next week.